Welcome to the channel. This is the spiritual samurai scribe. You know what just came to my mind right now as I've taken a day off, which honestly, it's been a long time since I've taken a day off, and I literally lost 10 pounds ever since I quit my last job about 2 months ago. What is it, 3 months ago I quit my last job. And so I realize now that with everything that's been going on in my personal life that, I hardly ever took a day off because, a lot of us can't afford that. But we also cannot afford spiritual exhaustion, and that's something that a lot of us, we tend to experience that throughout our life. And so given the fact that today I gave myself a day off to rest, that inspired me to make this video, because I know that this thing is not just, taking a break from work, but also it's like taking a break, just spiritually, just relax. And when you think about it, when you really think about it, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I had to release some tears earlier because I realized, it really dawned on me, like, when have I ever had any rest? I feel like for the most part, it's like my nervous system has always been on auto drive, or overdrive, I should say. Overdrive. It's been working so hard to keep going, to the point that we don't know when to give ourselves a break. We don't know when to rest, because let me tell you something. And when I really meditated on this, it brought me to tears, but it was cleansing, tears of cleansing. Sometimes releasing the tears is not a sign of weakness. A lot of people tell you that, but in reality, releasing the tears is a way of cleansing. You're releasing what's been trapped inside of you for so long. And if you're, like myself, even though I'm a lady, I can relate when it comes to the men in this aspect of not wanting to cry because you feel like it's a weakness, you feel like you're defeated. But in reality, releasing the tears as you process trauma, grief, past pain, all these things, and your triggers that incite that the pain of the past and all of the things that come with that, you're not weak for releasing tears. That's something that we need to do. We need to remember that we're human, and sometimes we don't know what it's like to be human because we've been emotionally numb for so long. We've been through so much that we had to shut down emotionally, and we were not able to have that space to be emotionally vulnerable, or to at least accept the fact that it's okay to let the waterworks do, release from our face. And so it came to my mind, as I thought about it, like, wow, when was the last time I had a day off? And it's not even just like a day off from work, because I know I've had a day off from work, but it was a long time, maybe, because I had like a lot going on, man, so much stuff. When you go through a lot of financial attacks, that can do a lot, and just try to, when you go through that, just try to not let it get to you. You got to understand that you're doing everything in your power to make sure that you handle everything. And a lot of people don't understand this. They don't understand the events that happen, and sometimes life just happens. Maybe you had a car accident and now you got all these, you got to make sure you got to get another car. You got to, whatever the case is, car accidents is pretty messed up, or being evicted and stuff like that. There's so many factors. I can go on and on about it, and a lot of you guys that going through it in your situations, you understand it. I understand it. I empathize, and I really pray and hope that you are in a better position, soon enough. Just, you got to keep yourself in high spirits the best way you can. In this video, I'm telling you, like, it's been such a long time since we've ever, like, when have we ever had rest? Because for the most part, when you look back, and it really dawned on me, like, and put yourself in these shoes, because I know for a lot of you guys have experienced this. I know you have. If you have to walk by yourself for the most part, if you had to master self-healing, if you had to sit down and basically deal with your own pain by yourself with little to no resources, little to no love. You had to learn how to love yourself with nothing. I like to describe this as, we're like the cactus. The cactus can continue to grow despite the fact that, there's not a lot of rain to go around. When you think about the environment of a cactus, it's like it's surrounded by dry land. It's arid, barely any rain, but somehow it survived because all it needs is a few drops of water to continue on. And that's why in my blog, in some of my posts, I always say, Gloria a Yahweh que nos trae el agua. That means glory be to Yahweh for bringing us the water of wisdom. And in that wisdom, there comes love and truth that allows us it sustains us, in our walk. And for a lot of us, life has given us short-term oasis, meaning it's like you're walking in a desert. For a lot of you guys have been walking in that desert by yourself, proverbially. And every now and then you run into an oasis, and then you have to prepare for the next journey. It's like there's never this life is not a vacation at all. It's always something happening. There's always, and you have to put yourself in the mindset of, hey, you've got some stuff to do. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But to be honest, man, if you're a generational curse breaker, it could really take a toll on you mentally, spiritually, to the point that you start to feel exhausted. And I'm here to tell you that there's nothing wrong with you feeling exhausted, because that's natural. That doesn't make you weak. That doesn't make you pathetic in any way. No, you have dealt with a lot of stress in your life that most people can't even fathom, and nor do they comprehend, nor do they care. And that's fine. They can, it's not for everybody. See, a lot of times we want this comfort from others. We want other people to see our pain and to understand and to give a fuck, which is natural because it's a part of being human. You're supposed to have that emotional support and stuff like that. Or maybe you're the type of person, you stay to yourself. You don't really like to share a lot with people because you have been put down before. You have, you tried to seek help, but the help wasn't helping. Sometimes when the last time you sought help, that help ended up hurting you. And that's another reason why we become hyper independent, because once upon a time we laid our burdens down to somebody that we trusted, somebody that we loved, whether it be a past partner, or maybe it was a narcissistic parent, or your past abusers, whether it be in romantic relationships or in your childhood, especially in your childhood, because that is the part where you are going through your formative years. And when you go through that level of trauma during those years, it can really, really pretty much mess us up for the rest of our life, because that determines your neural wiring in your brain and how you react to life, or whatever the case is. It's something that is damn near almost irreversible. And if you try to change it and try to do the self-healing, it's a very hard journey. I'm telling you, everybody keeps talking about healing and healing. Just heal, and that's great and all, but that process is very, very, like, it's so exhausting and strenuous, and it can be very intense depending on the type of level of complexity of your PTSD, because I'm telling you, it's very intense. It brings a lot. But so as far as exhaustion goes, as far as the last time we've ever had rest, when you really think about it, it seems like for the most of our life, we were forced to be strong. We had to be tough. We had to tough it out. We never really had a space to be like, it's okay to be human. Because the last time you did that, the last time you allowed yourself to be human, you allowed yourself to be vulnerable, you showed emotion, you confided in someone. It seems like every time you confide in someone, every time you search for that love, or for someone to care, or you were being human at that moment because you needed support. It seems like every time you did that, every time you reached out for help, you ended up getting hurt. You ended up getting abused and traumatized to the point that you never want to ask for shit ever again. And who could relate to that? I know a lot of you guys can. How many times have you reached for help only to end up getting hurt? Excruciating emotional pain, or sometimes even more than that in some cases, you know? But emotional pain is enough to rewire your brain psychologically. It causes a psychological toll on you as well. You see, let me tell you something, man. I thought about this in my own life, and I'm not going to get too into the details on here, but this is why I needed to release earlier today, because when I asked myself, when was the last time that I took a rest, like a genuine spiritual rest? When was the last time that I really felt like I can, truly rest? Because I've been feeling spiritually exhausted, lately, right now. And I know it's a season. It happens. It's a part of life. It's a part of the journey. But it's a lot. Even for the strongest people, it could be a lot. So when I thought about that, when I asked myself that question, like, when was the last time I actually rested? And I'm like, oh yeah, it made me think about someone. It made me think about when I was a preteen. And it took me back to my past abuser. So one of my past abusers. So this person that, and you, like I said, I'm going to talk to you now. And it's somebody, your past abuser, they were somebody that you saw as trustworthy. They might have been a replacement for an absent parent, whether it be a mother figure or a father figure, whatever the case is for you. I know for me, it was somebody that took the place of basically took the place of a father figure when I needed one the most. And they absolutely violated that. And I already had other traumas from before then. So this completely destroyed me almost. I'm telling you, it's a reason why I keep bringing that up, because that's the thing that made me just want to off myself at 14, because that's how emotionally damaging, psychologically damaging it was for me, because, I laid my burdens down, we lay our burdens down to people that we look up to, that was supposed to love and protect us. And then it turns out that they end up betraying us. And what's so sad is that when you think about these people in your life from their past, that when you were younger, you were a lot younger, you were vulnerable, you were in that position where you needed guidance the most. That's when these individuals decided to take advantage of that and try to steal your innocence and try to hijack you psychologically and spiritually, and then all types of stuff, man. These people, there's this it's so man, it's unbelievable how far they will go too, because it's you would never think they would do that to you. And so what's so sad is that you didn't do the wrong thing for asking for help. You were not wrong for asking for love. You were not wrong for that. That's normal. You were asking for the things that you were entitled to as a kid. You have every right to be loved, and you have every right to want that support when at those ages, especially. And the fact that you were violated, instead of being loved, cherished, held, and actually spoken to with respect and wisdom, and actually taught things rather than being torn down to pieces, man, it's a very hard thing to heal from, because now that's going to really shatter your ability to trust people. It makes you shut down, and sometimes it makes you want to, turn to the darkness. Maybe you start to feel like you don't belong to God. You start to feel all types of, a lot of negativity takes over. And honestly, I can't blame a person like that, because if you've gone through that kind of thing, it's really hard for you to experience what so-called, normal people experience. And I don't like saying the word normal, but you know what I mean, the last time you lay your burdens down, You know, somebody that like the last time you lay your burdens down, that is when that person knocked you down. And they knocked you down pretty bad, you know. You know, now you have to learn how to get up on your own. Can you imagine how fucked up that is? Just take a second to reflect on that. And, you know, and I know it's not really always if you're not ready for it, that's fine. But just take a moment to reflect on this. Like, you already were deprived of so much in your early years, just so that you can encounter somebody that pretends to be the support, that pretends to be what, a fake first responder, you know, that acts like they want to be there for you when you need that father or mother figure the most. And they decide that they want to take advantage of that. They want to capitalize off of your vulnerabilities. They want to capitalize on the fact that you are pretty much on your own, it seems like, or one parent is absent, or one parent, two parent neglecting you, or maybe they're busy with work and they don't have no choice. A lot of times it's not even if it was just one parent and they had to go to work, it's not really their fault, because it's like, well, I mean, they got to go to work, but it's messed up too, because a lot of times there's people that pay attention and they prey on that. They prey on single parent homes. They really do, especially single mother homes or divorced mother homes, whatever the case is, you know, because they know how to capture the woman's heart. There's people that have been watching you from the beginning, and you know the devil's gonna send his soulless creatures to try to come at you, you know, from the beginning, because they know they see when there is a crevice in a structure, in a household, the devil's gonna go right in. He's not gonna hesitate. He's like, oh, the protection is gone, huh? Okay, so now he's gonna slither in, and then that's when they send that dark energy into you. They send somebody with dark energy to come at you, to corrupt you. That's the intention, is to destroy you ultimately. You know, and to be honest, when you really think about this, it's like, has there ever been any time in your life where it was safe to lay your burdens down? Has there ever been a time in your life when it was safe to accept and receive love? You see, here's the thing. The reason why, you know, some of us, it's hard for us to open up is because every time we did, we got burned, right? But not only that, it's like we understood from our surroundings, from the stuff that we've experienced, from the way that life has shaped us, we understood that we have been primed to be a target, or we have, because we've been targeted from the beginning, right? We understood that the eyes are always on us. Therefore, there's no time, no space to be safe. And you know, it seems like it never felt like it was a good time to be human, basically. In a way, it's like you have to be superhuman, damn near, because you did not have the luxury to feel safe enough to express your emotions, because every time you finally trust someone to be there, like any normal human connection, they always violated you in some way. They destroyed every part of you. Every part of anything that allows you to trust in another human being has been broken and destroyed, because it's like every single moment there's always somebody that comes to try to finish you off, because that's how much they want to eradicate the light. They try so hard to do that. We don't know how to ask for help. We don't know how to accept assistance, because we're so used to like the assistance coming with pestilence that we don't even want to even bother with it. We became so self-sufficient, and some people might look at us as being cynical, but to us it's just we have to protect ourselves, because nobody, in a lot of cases, there wasn't anybody to protect you because of the type of environment that you were in growing up, you know. And it doesn't mean that everybody hate. Maybe everybody did dislike you. I don't know. Maybe everybody felt like everybody disliked you, or you at least had a few people that loved you, but they couldn't help you because they didn't have the knowledge, they didn't have the awareness, and they were caught up in their own traumas, and they were busy with the things that go on in life, like going to work and stuff like that. So there have been people in our life that they might have been good people, but they couldn't help us. You know, some of your parents, you know, whether one of them disliked you or the other one was just too busy to really be there. And that's the thing that we pretty much at the end of the day, you had to learn to be self-sufficient. You became a hyper independent person, and it's very hard for you to accept love because, and not because you don't want to love a person. See, here's the thing, you have a lot of love within you, but it's just the fact that you understand how much you're willing to give, that you don't want to lose yourself again. You don't want to be in that position where someone's capitalizing off of all of the things that you're willing to give because you're a giver. You have a big heart, and you don't want to lose yourself in the process of loving someone else. That's why it's hard to accept love, because every time you thought it was safe to confide in someone, to allow somebody to hold you when you were younger, they end up betraying you. And then not only that, given the environment that you lived in, right? It wasn't the best environment. So you have a lot of people around you that, you know, they want to take advantage of you in some way. Maybe they want to rob you, or maybe they want to sell you. You know, maybe they want to sell you. And as a woman, I'm speaking as a woman, that maybe you live next door to a pimp or something like that. You can't be, you know, having your heart on your sleeve and being all friendly and shit. You have to be stone cold militant, because if you're around these type of people, you know, you just can't be looking like you don't know what's going on. You can't be so quick to trust people, because like I said, even the people that you date, you will be shocked. Some of you ladies will probably dated some guys that were low key trying to sell you. You know what I mean by that. They didn't really love you. They wanted to make you fall in love with them so that they could sell you. They could pimp you out, you know? That's what happens. You know, and then if you have a father wound, oh, yeah, they can really infiltrate inside of you, you know, and it happens, you know, unfortunately. Or sometimes, you know, there's other circumstances that causes that to happen. I know some, you know, it could be forced on you, whatever the case is. But either way, what I'm saying is a lot of times manipulation is the key form that a lot of people use to take advantage of people and to try to gain something out of them by using them as a utility in whatever form that comes in, right? Even for the men too, they get used as utilities by manipulative, wicked women. And they, you know, there's so much that happens that you have to be aware of. You have to be aware of, you know, the people around you, and if they really are for you, or if they're just trying to use you, or if they're pimping you out in some way. So when is it safe to accept love? Well, you were in an environment where love was probably not around anyway. So how the fuck would you know how to accept something that wasn't really around like that? It wasn't given to you like that. And when it was, guess what? It was manipulation combined with that. So now you can't even tell the difference between love bombing and genuine love. And I know for some of us, we've gone through that. If you're a survivor of narcissistic abuse, then you know. And even SA too, because SA comes with that too. The same manipulative tactics, the same type of grooming that you experience when you're dealing with an abusive person is pretty much the same as SA, because essentially they're predators. They're predatorial in nature, so it's gonna be maybe slightly different, of course, but the level of mind control and grooming that takes place is very similar, you know. And I know because it starts off with laying your burdens down. They create this oasis for you. It's a fake ass oasis to make you feel like, oh, I can finally rest. And I think what's worse is the psychological toll that comes with the manipulation. I don't think people really understand the level of gaslighting, the level of, like, your brain is completely warped when you're around these people. You know, when you know, ever since from the very first day that you meet your abuser, the grooming already started. You have got to be careful with who you fall in love with because you don't know what you're dealing with right in front of you. It was never safe for you to really express love and to feel comfortable laying down and just relaxing for a second, because the enemy was always waiting for you to do that so that he can come in for the kill. It's almost like you're like a veteran. You know, you can't get no sleep. You can't sleep because if you sleep, that's the perfect time for them to strike. And you can translate that into, like, I know that's metaphorical. I mean, it could be literal, but metaphorically, it's almost like you're not allowed, you have not been allowed to be a human being throughout your life. You always had to be this big, powerful, superhuman entity, a bionic titan. And the truth is, we had no choice but to become like that, because it's not because, oh, we're better and all that. No, it's because we are battered. It's not because we're better, we're battered, you know? And what I mean by that, I mean that I'm saying that from a position of humility. I'm not saying that in any, or you know, any bad type of way. It's just the fact that we have been battered spiritually throughout our life. We have a lot of scars. You have no choice but to become strong to the point that people might see you as like superhuman. And it's not because you wanted to be, but it's just that you had no other fucking choice, you know? And that can be very exhausting, and that can cause you to, you know, get into a lot of bad habits throughout your life. And hey, I don't judge people in whatever issues they have, because I understand the neuroscience behind trauma and what it does and the type of repetitive cycles that you go through to try to satisfy yourself in any way. Hey, you know what? We know what the Bible says. I know a lot of people like to quote scripture and say you got to follow the law and all that, which, yeah, in a perfect world, if everybody could follow the laws, technically, yes, the universal laws, it would be a great world. It would be paradise. But because, you know, for one, you have evil people that don't give a damn about that. And then on the other hand, you have people that have been traumatized and hurt so much that they do things a lot of times that it alleviates them. They want to alleviate from that pain, you know, that's why the people pursue pleasure for that reason. And then we have to rewire our brain to view pleasure, to change our definition of pleasure. What gives us pleasure? A lot of times it's things that are not good for you or others. A lot of times. So you have to try to redirect where you get your pleasure, which would be something more high vibrational. But I understand, man, it's hard sometimes, you know? It's hard. Sometimes you're being tested. And so whenever you go through your trials in your life, there's gonna be times where you know you're gonna be tested. Your spirit is tested and stuff like that. You might get tired of being tested. You might be like, fuck it, I'll just flunk this shit. You know, I might just get an F on this assignment. I just like to be real. I'd rather be real and raw than to be a hypocrite. We all got our own battles. But I will say this about myself and about all of you guys, is that the fact that you're even trying to work on yourself, the fact that you're even trying to make sure that you move in the right direction, despite what your flesh is telling you, despite what your pain is telling you, because the pain can make you do things that are out of character. Your brain has been rewired by trauma, and it could take, like I said, it's a difficult path. The curse mark of SA, which causes you to pursue things that are not, that tend to be self-destructive, or things that are not always the best decisions to make. And think about, when was the last time you had some rest? And it might hit you like it hit me, because you think about, wow, the last time I tried to do that, I was hurt, I was traumatized heavily. So you probably had the same experience, and that's why it's hard for you to just let yourself breathe and to accept love and embrace it. Because every time you did that, you already know you were met with more scars on top of that. And so you decided to keep that thing concealed, never to be revealed to anyone. because then if they know your weakness, then they know how to destroy you. As you get older now, you have to realize that it's time to adapt to a new thing so that we can actually enjoy life. And I want that for myself, and I want that